Hey everyone! So, Australian scientists just dropped some news that's going to make you look at great white sharks completely differently. And no, they didn't discover sharks can read minds or that Jaws was a documentary. They discovered that despite studying these apex predators for decades, we've been missing something huge. Well, actually something tiny, microscopic even. Turns out we know almost nothing about what's living inside great white sharks. And those tiny hitchhikers might be pulling the strings on shark behavior, health, and maybe even those encounters with humans that everyone freaks out about. Buckle up, because we're about to talk about shark guts, and it's way more interesting than it sounds. Here's the situation. Great white sharks are one of the most studied predators on Earth. We've tracked them, tagged them, made like 47 documentaries about them, turned them into movie villains, and basically obsessed over them for decades. But here's what researchers at Charles Sturt University in Australia just figured out. We've been studying the shark, but ignoring an entire universe of organisms living inside it. Professor Shakoufe Shamsi and Associate Professor Diane Barton published a world-first study that basically says, hey guys, we've identified at least 116 parasites living inside great white sharks, mostly tapeworms and copepods, and we have zero idea what they're actually doing in there. It's like if you studied humans for 50 years but never bothered to check what your gut bacteria do. Spoiler alert. Your gut bacteria do a lot. They affect your mood, your energy, your immune system, basically everything. So why would we assume shark parasites are just hanging out doing nothing? As Professor Shamsi put it, we are looking at sharks and seeing only the surface. Which is a polite way of saying we've been doing shark research with one eye closed this whole time. Okay, so let's talk about what this gap actually means. The researchers dove into scientific literature from around the world and examined specimens from major museum collections. We're talking the Smithsonian, Australian Helminthological Collection, all the heavy hitters. They looked at data from the US, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, everywhere great whites swim. And here's what they found. Almost all existing research on shark parasites is purely descriptive. Scientists have basically been like, yep, that's a tapeworm, cool, moving on. They can identify what's there, but they have no idea what it does. None. Zip. Zilch. In other animals, parasites and microbes are known to influence energy levels, like whether you feel like a couch potato or running a marathon, stress responses, how you react under pressure, feeding behavior, what you eat and when, decision-making, literally affecting your brain chemistry. But in great white sharks, we haven't studied any of this. We're talking about enormous blind spots that span entire oceans, according to Professor Shamsi. Think about that. We can track a shark's movements across thousands of miles using satellites, but we can't tell you if the tapeworm in its gut is making it cranky. Now you might be thinking, okay, but who cares about shark tapeworms? I have enough problems. But here's where it gets really interesting. These microscopic organisms might be influencing shark behavior in ways we've never even considered. And that includes those rare but terrifying encounters with humans. Now, before you panic, the researchers are very clear that there's no evidence linking parasites to shark attacks. They're not saying tapeworms make sharks attack people. But they are saying we should probably figure out if parasites affect things like how aggressive or stressed a shark is, its energy levels and hunting patterns, its susceptibility to environmental stressors, its overall health and decision-making. Professor Shamsi poses this provocative question. What if part of a shark's behavior, including unexpected encounters with humans, is influenced by factors we've never measured? And her answer? We do not yet know. And that is precisely why this research is crucial. It's like if you were trying to predict someone's behavior but ignored that they hadn't slept in 3 days and had been living on energy drinks. You'd miss some pretty important context, right? Here's another mind-blowing angle. Parasites can act as sentinels for ecosystem health. They reveal pollution levels, prey stress, and whether food webs are breaking down. And here's where it gets even weirder. This research is being done by scientists at Charles Sturt University, which is inland Australia. Why does that matter? Because Professor Shamsi argues that what happens on land doesn't stay on land. Pesticides, pollutants, and land-based pathogens wash into coastal waters, move through food webs, and eventually reach apex predators like great whites. So that fertilizer runoff from a farm hundreds of miles inland? It could potentially be affecting the parasites inside sharks, which could be affecting shark behavior, which could be affecting, well, everything. What happens on land does not stay on land. It travels through waterways, food webs, and ultimately shapes the health of marine giants like great white sharks, Professor Shamsi said. It's the circle of life, except way more complicated and involving tapeworms. Professor Barton also highlighted something crucial. Museum collections are absolute gold for this research. They preserve biological material that can be revisited with new technologies decades later. Like specimens collected in the 1980s can now be analyzed with tools that didn't exist back then. Museums aren't just dusty buildings full of old stuff. They're time capsules of biological data waiting to be unlocked. Here's how bad this blind spot is. A recent major publication called White Sharks Global: Proceedings and Recent Advances in White Shark Ecology and Conservation was published. It's supposed to be the comprehensive book on great white sharks. Guess how many chapters it had on parasites or microbiomes? 0. None. Not a single one. As Professor Shamsi said, their complete absence underscores the depth of this blind spot. It's like publishing The Complete Guide to Computers and not mentioning software, or writing everything you need to know about pizza and leaving out the cheese. The researchers aren't saying parasites are villains. They're saying parasites are storytellers. They reveal pollution levels, prey stress, ecosystem health, all the invisible stuff we need to understand if we want to actually conserve these animals. Healthy oceans depend on recognizing the small things, like the hidden architecture of parasites and microbes, Professor Shamsi said. So, there you have it. We've been studying great white sharks for decades, made them into Hollywood celebrities, tracked every movement they make, but we've completely ignored the microscopic universe living inside them. And that universe might be calling the shots in ways we never imagined. The biggest discoveries about great white sharks might not come from studying them swimming around. They might come from studying what's swimming around inside them. If this blew your mind, hit that like button and subscribe. And let me know in the comments. What other obvious things do you think science has been overlooking? Thanks for watching, and remember, the most important stuff is sometimes the stuff you can't see.